Emily Thornberry.
Very much, Madam Deputy Speaker.
Over the last few days, calls to switchboard the national LGBT+ helpline in my constituency has skyrocketed.
Let's watch Emily Thornberry, the Labour MP, attempt to defend men's rights to go in women's loos. The rebellion against the Supreme Court ruling continues, and their arguments get more pathetic by the day.
Callers who are in fear for what this ruling means to them. Because trans people, frightened to use public loos today, know one thing. And does the Secretary of State agree? We should all be clear about this. The overwhelming threat to women and to all of the trans community is the violence that we suffer from cis men.
Hang on a second. Okay, so men in frocks should be allowed to go into women's toilets because they are not the ones posing a threat, apparently. Apparently, it's only cis men that are dangerous, even though the stats definitely show otherwise. And make sure you stay tuned because we're going to look at that after this video.
Minister.
Madam Deputy Speaker, I agree that male violence remains a very serious challenge that we face as a country, a challenge that this Labour government is determined to confront. But I would say to her that the ruling of the Supreme Court was clear about the importance of biological sex, but I would not want any trans person in her constituency or anywhere across the country to be fearful. I believe that everyone has the right to be treated with dignity and respect, not to face discrimination or harassment, and that is why we will back the police to ensure that action is taken against anyone who behaves in that way.
So there we go. That was Emily Thornberry's absolutely pathetic argument. Now, she has turned off the comments on that video because she doesn't want to be held to account. But you can retweet with a quote tweet and leave a comment. And I've been taking a look at those. And this is the photo that a lot of people are putting in their quote tweets, which just without a doubt completely annihilates her stupid argument that cis men are the dangerous one and trans women, i.e. men identifying as women, are safe to be in our toilets. Look at this. So this is rates of sexual offending. It says it's derived from His Majesty's prison service data. So this has come out from the government. Whether these stats are about people in prison, and that's why it's come from the prison service, or they're just the ones who are dealing with this data, regardless of whether this is for prison or for the general population, this paints a blatantly obvious, clear picture that trans women, i.e. men in frocks, are more dangerous than cis men, completely going against what Emily Thornberry said. So look at this. So women, 3 per million incarcerated sex offenders. Men, 395 per million. But men who identify as women, 1,916 per million. The facts do not lie, Emily Thornberry, okay? You are living in complete and utter delusion. Let's take a look at a couple of the replies. So Rupert Lowe says, cis men aren't real, Emily. Men are real, women are real, idiots are real. You're 2 out of 3. Or let's have a look at what Michelle Dubray had to say. Cis men, genuine question. How do grown adults get sucked into absurd, harmful ideology so easily? Do they think this trite, or is it to virtue signal, be kind, or what? By the way, male violence against women is serious. Whether said guy is wearing a dress, etc., is irrelevant. Well said. Good point. You know, how do they get sucked into this ridiculous ideology when the facts paint a very, very clearly different picture? Does she not look at any of the facts? Does she just listen to the trans activists out at that protest there was on Saturday and just listen to them and nobody else, and not look at any of the data about how much of a danger? How many stories do we have to see of sexual assaults and rapes happening in instances where trans women have been allowed into single-sex spaces? How many of those cases do you need to see before you start taking this seriously? In fact, one person who quote tweeted this, they put up this wall of shame of cases of, got some pretty interesting looking individuals there. These are trans women who have committed some absolutely disgusting crimes. To suggest, I'm not suggesting that every trans woman is a rapist. Every trans woman is going to be a danger. I'm sure the vast majority are fine, but they are much more likely to cause harm to a woman in a toilet than another woman causing harm to me, like per million, if we go back to those stats that we looked at. Okay, it is not right for, especially you don't have CCTV in toilets. You've got to bear that in mind, and that's where it's often very difficult. If someone does harm you, if somebody does sexually assault you, in order to bring justice against that individual, you do need evidence, and you can produce witness statements and whatnot. But when there is no CCTV, that is very difficult. And it also, when there's no CCTV, places where there's no CCTV, that is places where men are, more willing to act in an inappropriate way, because they know they're way more likely to get away with it if there's no CCTV to hold them to account. Also, when I was looking through the tweets on this, there is some good news, guys. Amongst all the lefties having a meltdown about this decision, trying to overrule it, there is some common sense being brought forward. You guys may have remembered from a few weeks ago, there was that pool final, the UK pool final, and the women's final was contested by 2 biological men, which I thought was just absolutely disgusting, that not a single female was able to compete in the women's final. But anyway, after the Supreme Court decision, they've had a bit of humility, they've changed their mind, ultimate pool, and they've decided that biological males, are not allowed to compete in the women's game. So I don't know if they're going to do anything about the final that's just gone and say let's rerun it. Probably won't, I expect, but let's see what happens. But you can rest assured knowing the next women's final next year, whenever it is, it will be actual women in the final. Thank God for that. Common sense is starting to prevail. Bear in mind, guys, just to end on a bit of optimism, you do have all these plunkers like Emily Thornberry causing a big storm. You do have all these trans activists holding up their signs saying we're gonna pee on turfs. Weird, right? Wanting to pee on everyone to prove their point. Interesting, Richard Dawkins, he shared a thing about this, and he said, yes, very common in male mammals that they like to pee everywhere to mark their territory, which proves that these trans women, they are actually men. But anyway, on the point of optimism, all of this hoo-ha, all of this shouting from the lefties, it's probably not going to achieve anything, because we're talking about a Supreme Court decision, not a government decision which they can just flip-flop on and give into the pressure. It's a UK Supreme Court, highest court in the land decision, okay? This is not going to get overturned in a heartbeat, okay? They can make noise, but what's done is done. Case closed. Anyway, I'm Chloe Dobbs. Thank you very much for watching this video. Subscribe to Reasoned if you've not already.